Django abstract models versus regular inheritance. Besides the syntax, what's the difference between using a Django abstract model and using plain Python inheritance with Django models? Pros and cons? Update. I think my question was misunderstood and I received responses for the difference between an abstract model and a class that inherits from django.db.models.model. I actually want to know the difference between a model class that inherits from a Django abstract class, meta, abstract equals true, and a plain Python class that inherits from, say, objects and not models.model. Here is an example.
I actually want to know the difference between a model class that inherits from a Django abstract class, meta, abstract equals true, and a plain Python class that inherits from, say, object, and not models.model. Django will only generate tables for subclasses of models.model, so the former will cause a single table to be generated, along the lines of whereas the latter won't cause any tables to be generated. You could use multiple inheritance to do something like this. Which would create a table, but it will ignore the fields defined in the user class, so you'll end up with a table like this.
An abstract model creates a table with the entire set of columns for each subchild, whereas using a plain Python inheritance creates a set of linked tables, aka multi-table inheritance. Consider the case in which you have two models. If vehicle is an abstract model, you'll have a single table. However, if you use plain Python inheritance, you'll have two tables. Where vehicle_id is a link to a row in app_vehicle that would also have the number of wheels for the car. Now, Django will put this together nicely in object form so you can access number_wheels as an attribute on car, but the underlying representation in the database will be different. Update. To address your updated question, the difference between inheriting from a Django abstract class and inheriting from Python's object is that the former is treated as a database object, so tables for it are synced to the database, and it has the behavior of a model. Inheriting from a plain Python object gives the class, and its subclasses, none of those qualities.
The main difference is how the database's tables for the models are created. If you use inheritance without abstract equals true, Django will create a separate table for both the parent and the child model which hold the fields defined in each model. If you use abstract equals true for the base class, Django will only create a table for the classes that inherit from the base class, no matter if the fields are defined in the base class or the inheriting class. Pros and cons depend on the architecture of your application. Given the following example models. If the publishable class is not abstract, Django will create a table for publishables with the columns title and date and separate tables for blog entry and image. The advantage of this solution would be that you are able to query across all publishables for fields defined in the base model, no matter if they are blog entries or images. But therefore Django will have to do joins if you e.g. do queries for images. If making publishable abstract equals true, Django will not create a table for publishable, but only for blog entries and images, containing all fields, also the inherited ones. This would be handy because no joins would be needed to an operation such as get. Also see Django's documentation on model inheritance.
Just wanted to add something which I haven't seen in other answers. Unlike with Python classes, field name hiding is not permitted with model inheritance. For example, I have experimented issues with an use case as follows. I had a model inheriting from Django's auth permission mixin. Then I had my mixin, which among other things I wanted it to override the related underscore name of the group's field. So it was more or less like this. I was using this two mixins as follows. So yeah, I expected this to work, but it didn't. But the issue was more serious because the error I was getting wasn't pointing to the models at all. I had no idea of what was going wrong. While trying to solve this, I randomly decided to change my mixin and convert it to an abstract model mixin. The error changed to this. As you can see, this error does explain what is going on. This was a huge difference, in my opinion, smiley face.
The main difference is when you inherit the user class. One version will behave like a simple class, and the other will behave like a Django module. If you inherit the base object version, your employee class will just be a standard class, and first underscore name won't become part of a database table. You can't create a form or use any other Django features with it. If you inherit the models.model version, your employee class will have all the methods of a Django model, and it will inherit the first underscore name field as a database field that can be used in a form. According to the documentation, an abstract model provides a way to factor out common information at the Python level, while still only creating one database table per child model at the database level.
If you want to support the channel, please consider subscribing.